ain't see me, you Stevie. Wondering how I reach more evolutions than Eevee and make it look easy.
What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. So today's video, I'm going to be talking about Wolverine number 48, written by Benjamin Percy and Victor LaValle, with pencils by Corey Smith, inks by Oren Jr., and color by Alex Sinclair. So let's go ahead and get the review out of the way for this comic. This is a very pretty looking comic. One thing I can definitely say about the Wolverine series as of late is that when we have Corey Smith and Oren Jr. working in tandem with each other, which is kind of weird to say this, but like, it wasn't really until this comic came out, or not really this specific one, but just like the Sabretooth War as a whole started, that I started remembering that there used to be a time in life where the person who penciled the comic was not the same person who inked the comic. And I'm not really trying to go off into a diatribe about why that has changed over the years, but I do sometimes find it refreshing when we get a comic that is not both penciled and inked by the same person, because there's something that's just, I don't know, very captivating about looking at a picture and knowing that it was more than one person that did it. And there's also something very captivating about seeing a picture and being like, oh wow, only one person did this. But yeah, I don't know, it kind of just gave me like a trip back in nostalgia land to a bygone era, it seems. But no, I liked it. I like the art in this. A lot of it is very consistent throughout. I actually will say there are a couple of moments here and there where I feel like Wolverine looks off a little bit. And it might just be me overthinking. There's a couple of shots here where Wolverine looks a little off, but I do feel like the work put into making Great and Creed look cool for the first time ever is pretty damn awesome. I like what they're doing with Great and Creed in this. He just looks like a badass. And I mean, a lot of that too is storytelling on the Benjamin Percy, Victor LaValle side of things. But yeah, I just really do like what they've done. They've actually made him look like a credible threat visually is kind of more what I'm talking about. But yeah, just looking at it on its face, the book is pretty damn consistent almost all the way entirely through it, as it kind of gives us a throwback into the history of Wolverine that is in a lot of ways spanning about 100 years in continuity, both for Wolverine and for Sabretooth. The first like 2 or 3 pages kind of read like a greatest hits for both Wolverine and Sabretooth. And also this kind of acts as like, you know, when you watch a TV show, every TV show, they always have like a recap episode. Like there's also, you see this a lot like in anime, there's always like a recap episode somewhere where like the episode, not really important, it's really just more for people who might be jumping in at a weird, spot in the show. This is kind of that for the first 2 or 3 pages. From an art perspective, this book is fantastic looking. Also, the color by Alex Sinclair is pretty spot on. Like, it's not really been off at any one point, but I do appreciate, for one, that just the way the colors pop in this, it just lets you know who everyone is. And what I mean by that is not just saying, oh, you're able to tell this character from that character, but the color that is used to depict a character can tell you a lot. While I'm not going to go through and break down all the different colors that kind of tell you who these characters are, but just like, yeah, the vibrance of them just kind of lets you know that these different characters that we keep seeing throughout the series, it just kind of gives you a visual shorthand in case you don't know who they are or what they're like. Get into the writing of it. I feel like this is going to be the point where I'm probably going to be a little ugly here. I feel like this was the issue where the wheels are kind of spinning. Like, yeah, this is the point where the car is stuck in the mud, and this is the portion of the tale where the wheel spins a little bit before you ultimately get it out of the mud. It's that last spin. Not saying it's just spinning its wheels the whole time, but it's that last spin before we really get moving somewhere. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, we got to think about this. This is a 10-part story arc. At some point, something had to slow down. And this is the issue for it. We saw in the previous issue that Sabretooth had been, quotey fingers defeated. He's inside of a Venus flytrap as we speak right now of Krakoan design. And right now, Great and Creed is the central villain in all this. And while I don't think that it's necessarily so bad that the story is spinning its wheels here, you also have to give Wolverine squared up for what is ultimately to be the final battle. The next 2 issues are going to be the final battle between Wolverine and Sabretooth, and potentially Great and Creed as well. We knew from jump, because of solicits, Wolverine is going to get the adamantium suit, and while I don't think this is much of a major spoiler, I mean, yeah, he gets it in this issue, and it's cool to see how he gets it. And I guess now where it's time to jump more into that spoiler territory, what I will say is that while I initially was of the belief that he was going to find that adamantium armor in Forge's base, the secret lab underneath Krakoa, that's not the case. They don't go back into the lab to find it after they've escaped it. What they do is that they return to a place that was built specifically for Wolverine by Forge, a secret bunker, so to speak, where this adamantium armor just so happens to be found. Apparently, Wolverine had Forge create this armor for him in case of an emergency, and in a lot of ways, it does kind of remind me of the old Batman armor suit, not the one from Dark Knight Returns, though, I mean, technically, I can make a case for it, but it actually reminds me more of the bat suit from Batman versus Predator from, you know, back like in the 90s. This adamantium armor, well, for one, allows Wolverine to be able to survive the attacks of someone like a Sabretooth or a Great and Creed or a Stark Tech Sentinel. I would also imagine that this armor might have some kind of built-in joints or servos or something that would allow him to more easily move around, because as one might imagine, having adamantium bones and also having your mutant superhuman capabilities completely nullified, I would be surprised if Wolverine's not having a difficult time moving around with all that metal. So this might help mitigate some of that as well. Because we can't forget, right now at this precise moment, Wolverine does not have any of his mutant powers. The only thing he still has is his claws, and I'm gonna go on a limb and say it's likely because the mutant power neutralizer didn't remove the bone claws, or even if they did, the blades are still there. The adamantium itself is not a part of his power set. It's something he got later, but that's neither here nor there. If you're wondering what's up with the sword that he is carrying, that is one of the Muramasa blades, and this is something I found pretty damn interesting just based on the fact that the Muramasa blades are an incredibly powerful sword, capable of cutting through virtually anything, even adamantium. And if a person cut by the blade has any kind of a healing factor, the sword can effectively dull that healing factor, slowing it down to the point that it's not even really useful. This is a type of sword that if you wanted to unalive someone like a Wolverine, a Deadpool, a Sabretooth, a Solem, a person who either has adamantium skin or is incredibly durable and or has a healing factor, this sword would be to them what a silver bullet is to a werewolf. Now, if you're wondering where Wolverine got this from, these swords have existed in the Marvel Comics universe off and on for quite some time, but this specific Muramasa blade is actually a part of a twin set. This is something that came up during the Ten of Swords tie-in X-Force number 13. Wolverine currently has one of them. His arch nemesis, Solem, has the other, a character who also spun out of Ten of Swords. Wolverine has had possession of one of the swords for quite some time, though one of the other blades has been getting tossed around back and forth between himself and Solem, off and on pretty much throughout Percy's run of Wolverine thus far. And while Solem has held on to his blade for quite some time, even duping Logan with a decoy of that same sword in Wolverine number 15, Logan actually managed to get both Muramasa blades in his possession by the following Wolverine number 16. And then Solem stole both Muramasas back in Wolverine number 24 during the Judgment Day event, but Logan managed to get one of them back in the same issue. But Wolverine recently got the second Muramasa blade back in Wolverine number 37, taking it off of Solem when he encountered him in Madripoor. And apparently, he's been keeping the Muramasa blades in this secret bunker vault. At least one of them. We know one of the other blades has largely been just kind of chilling on Krakoa, but it seems like at the very least, he's been keeping one of them somewhere else. And this is the somewhere else that it's been kept. Also, to the surprise of no one, Sabretooth has gotten out of his Krakoan Venus flytrap. Now, the question is going to be, what does he look like once he crawls out of it? While his hand seems to be very much intact, it doesn't seem like the slow digestive nature of an actual Venus flytrap has really taken effect yet. If anything, he might be a little burned up, but it seems just how clean his hand looks when he pushes his hand through the exterior of it. It seems like he's very likely going to be fine. Also, another thing I kind of want to talk about very briefly too is some upgrades that two specific characters got in this issue, one of those being Graydon Creed. We saw that he had gotten some cybernetic enhancements, but apparently these cybernetic enhancements allow him to hotwire and take over a Stark Tech Sentinel. Now, a part of this is due to the fact that when he was a part of Orcus, he likely had access to some of the coding for the Stark Tech Sentinels, maybe. But it seems like it also has more to do with the fact that he has those cybernetic enhancements. He even finds a way to take over them from the inside of the head itself, effectively piloting it as if it were a Gundam. Black Tom Cassidy also gets an upgrade in this. While Black Tom has largely been a pretty powerful mutant in and of his own right, it seems like he is bordering, and I don't want to say he is an Omega level mutant now in this regard, because that's something that people are way too quick to jump on whenever somebody shows any little bit of power. But in this case, I would almost be willing to say maybe his power controlling the veg, his chlorokinetic and chloropathy abilities do seem to be next level now. He probably can't hold a candle to characters like the artist formerly known as Nature Girl, now known as Armageddon Girl, but I'm gonna go on a limb and say that he could probably give her a run for her money. There are also some other characters like Flourish who can also probably do some similar things. So before anybody rushes to go call Black Tom Cassidy an Omega level mutant, I just want to pour some cold water on that, just let you know that he's not the only character who could probably do something like this. But this is still a very impressive feat because he ends up creating his own version of the Blackbird out of vegetation. Using the vegetation of Krakoa around him, he is able to create a fully functioning flying vehicle. And like I said, I'm not wanting to just quickly jump on the bandwagon and call that an Omega level feat just off rip, but if anything would make a case for it, it would be that, though I do think there might be some other mitigating factors in there. But this, just in and of himself, Black Tom Cassidy has become a lot closer in kind to a character like a Poison Ivy or like a Swamp Thing over on the DC comic side of things. So I'm loving what Black Tom is actually able to do with his powers now that, in the Krakoan era, and it's been going on for quite a while now, but just in the Krakoan era in and of itself, he has gotten to a point now where he has been using his power so much more than what we're normally used to seeing, to the point that I think a lot of people forgot this was even his power until he joined X-Force. As for everything else, it seems like the Exiles and Wolverine are going to wind up converging on Graydon Creed alongside both Sabretooth and Laura Kinney, because Laura Kinney is out in the wind now. She's been taken down by a Stark Tech Sentinel, but she is still out there somewhere, so she's very likely going to get drug into the fight on this as well. And by the time we get to the next issue, I have a feeling Graydon Creed will likely be off the table, leaving issue 50 for Wolverine to deal with Sabretooth once and for all. You guessed it, obligatory channel outro time. If you're not subscribed to the channel, consider doing so. Clicking that subscribe button and tapping that notification bell ensures that you get more videos just like this one, and you don't miss any of my other content that I drop throughout the week, plus my live streams every Thursday and Saturday. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure you click that like button, keep it plus ultra, and sound off in the comments.